Welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show, where you'll learn how to grow your team today. Join Ken Trupke and his guests as they discuss what works and doesn't work to grow your team in today's world. And now, your host, Ken Trupke.
Hello, and welcome again to the Clarity Advisors Show. As you grow your team, your role continues to evolve as you offload tasks. For the past 14 years, my guest today has been growing his business, and his role continues to evolve as his team grows and the market changes. Jason Dodge is the founder and CEO of BlackTruck Media and Marketing, and he is an expert in search engine optimization. So please welcome my very good friend, Mr. Jason Dodge. Jason, welcome to the show.
Ken, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so let's jump right in. Talk about how you got where you are. What was the evolution of your career, and how did you, frankly, choose SEO and get involved and become an expert in that space?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, BlackTruck's been around for 14 years. Myself, I've been involved in the industry for going on, I think it's been over 18 years. It's probably almost 20 years at this point in time. And search is a real niche vertical within the digital marketing space. And I got started in it somewhat early on, probably back in like my early college years, before I even knew, I guess, that it was a thing, that it was an industry, in terms of, quite frankly, hacking together websites, working on content, doing things necessary to try and get them to show up and appear better in search results. And that's really, what we do. And that's really kind of evolved from a solopreneur, even though I dislike that name, into, a team of 8 people. And what we do now is we really help brands grow their presence online, and specifically through search and digital channels.
So is it fair that search engine optimization, or SEO, is, well, I won't tell you the answer. You tell me the answer. How would you describe SEO?
SEO, or search engine optimization specifically, there's a big difference between that and paid digital ads, which is another portion of our business, right? So just kind of point of clarification, it's, half of our business is SEO, half of our business is paid media, if you just kind of break it down that way. SEO is anything that is a non-paid search result. So when you are looking at, let's just call it old school 10 blue links in Google search, it's not ads. That's SEO. So anything that we can do to influence organic search rankings, whether that's a Google My Business listing that you would find in a local search, or the actual search results that you see on your screen, on a desktop or mobile device.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was gonna say. I think, is it fair to say shorthand is organic search versus paid search? Is that still a fair distinction, or do people not say that anymore?
Yeah, no, I mean, paid search. Yeah, I think yes and no, right? I mean, the short and the long of it is, again, organic is non-paid, and paid search is paid. That's Google Ads or Google AdWords, what people used to always call that, or PPC, pay-per-click marketing. So, but I think the evolution of that, and even the evolution of our business and that service side, is so much more, right? There's paid search, there's targeted display, there's video, there's social, there's a lot of components that go into that side of the business as well.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. All right. So let's talk about your team. So you started in search 20 some years ago. 14 years ago, you started BlackTruck by yourself. Talk about that and how you started it. And then I want to get into how your role has evolved as you've added teammates over the years.
Yeah, so I started the business. I think I always knew at some point, at some capacity, I always knew that I was going to launch into doing my own thing. I always knew that there was a different way to approach digital marketing, and had different methodologies, and then also to just ethos that I really wanted to follow, that were appropriate to approach search from a very, what we call, honest approach. Because search has matured. SEO has been around for a while within the industry, but there are still there's a little bit of a black cloud that can kind of hover over the industry still, just for some snake oil type tactics that have been deployed. So yeah, back in it would have been 2009 to 2010, somewhere in there. I was actually at an agency, so I kind of did I call it the common, at that time would have been like an agency, in-house agency dance. And the last agency I was at, unfortunately, was headed under. And I had a decision to make on which direction I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And so exited that company the best that I could, and really launched, BlackTruck as more of a contractor, right? And I needed a professional entity to put behind it. So
Okay. Yeah. And actually, sometimes it's hard to believe that we've known each other that long, but
yeah,
that's
for
where
sure.
we met, was at that
It is.
agency. So I've known
Yeah,
you the whole Black Truck journey.
that's
All
right.
right. All right. So let's talk about that. So you jump out, launch your own agency and
Mhm,
start with
mhm.
just you,
Yep.
and then grow from there. So in those first couple years, what positions did you add, and how did you decide that, and how do you change your role? Just talk about what your thinking is as you're growing a team.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Kind of to back up even more, I don't think, and Ken, you and I probably have had multiple conversations throughout the years about this. It's like I don't think I ever went into it knowing that I was going to grow a business, right? I think I thought I was going to keep it as Jason Dodge and Black Truck and that approach, and really what I started to learn and observe was there was a need not only in the market regionally where we're at, but also in other areas we do work, and just to do work differently, to do it again from an honest perspective, and to really try and and do things with a different lens. And that's really what we started to bring to the table. So as kind of work started to grow, as our project started to grow, as well as at that time, my wife and I were expecting our first child. So as those things happen, those life events, you start to reevaluate your business and say, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to keep status quo and work on some projects here and there, at kind of the capacity that I'm at, or do we want to add capacity and start to grow it that way? So our first employee, who's actually still with the company. And we didn't hire our first employee until probably eight years ago. So the company was well established at that point in time. We weren't quite over that, what do you call it, that 5 year mark, that hump. But we brought that individual on as a contractor, and it just worked out in happenstance. Somebody who knew somebody was attending an event, a dinner, and that individual was looking for work. And I was at that point where I was like, man, maybe we should start to look to explore options. Contractor part-time, what does that look like? And I think inside of a month, I moved that contractor from a part-time contractor, true 1099, to a full W2 employee, a full-time employee.
Okay, so you were looking to add some capacity, but it had
Yeah.
been plus or minus 5 years that it
Mhm.
was just you kind of
Yeah.
wearing all the hats then, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was. And I think that's one of those things too, you learn, when you reflect on yourself after 14 years of business, you kind of go, okay, well, what would I do differently? Right. And there's definitely a focus on systems, processes, having, the right people in the right seats, that all of those concepts that we all know to be true. But until you're really in it, you don't really see it. Right. You're kind of running your business with blinders on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so what was that first role? Was it just more of a duplication of the same things you were doing to just literally
Yeah.
add capacity, or did it take something else off your plate?
No, spot on. I mean, it was a duplication or replication. You're looking at, okay, how can at that juncture, how can I replicate myself? We have work that needs to be done, strategies, tactics. Okay, how do we get more done? So it was purely from a workhorse perspective. Like, how do we get things done? Can that person be trained up? Can they learn, etc.? And what's great though too is that individual has since evolved out of that role into something completely different. That individual has evolved from SEO work, from organic search, strictly into being full time doing paid media and paid ads, which is really interesting. So because there's really a left brain, right brain when it comes to that.
Oh, okay, interesting. So keep walking us through the growth of the team. That's what I really want to dig into.
Yeah.
So now you've got two people, you've essentially just replicated yourself, and now you have
Mhm.
additional capacity. What's next?
Yeah. So what's next is we We had a location move, so we had an office shift, and then we explored bringing an intern on, and that's really what I would say was the catalyst to view it from a leadership and managerial perspective of how to scale things. So you have one team member, and it's just you and the other person, maybe another from a contract perspective. I'm trying to think back. We did have another contractor at that time to do some additional work that was out of scope of our skill set. But then we had an intern, and we started to bring that intern into the fold, and quickly turned that intern into also a full-time employment opportunity right after their graduation from college. And then kind of ever since then, the evolution has been looking at where are our bandwidth gaps, where's the skill gap, and how do we fill it, if that makes sense. So really looking at what's the team need, and how do we want to approach this as we look to add different team members.
Okay, so the intern also is an expansion of capacity. It's
100%. Yeah, the interns for us, I've always viewed it as, and a lot of that goes back to my experience as an intern too, and others of, interns have to be paid. I'm a firm believer in that, and I'll definitely probably die on that soapbox. But interns need to be paid. They're doing work for you, and you should have them doing billable work. If they're getting value out of it, and you're getting value out of it, there needs to be an exchange there, right? Nobody works for free. So that person was getting paid anyways because they're on billable work, even though they're a junior member and they're learning. We're teaching them at capacity and at pace, and we're giving them things to do. So they're getting paid and they're growing. So, which is also good too, because then it makes it a little bit of an easier transition into that full-time employee role.
Okay. All right. I want to keep going down that journey and then start talking about what that's meant for you as your roles had to evolve. And we'll do that on the other side of the break. Stay with us on the Clarity Advisor Show.
Is your business where you want it to be, or on track to get there? Clarity Advisors helps business leaders improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success. We specialize in helping you streamline your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Call or text Ken at 616-822-2998 to have a complimentary 12-minute call to see what some clarity could do for you.
Okay, welcome back to the Clarity Advisor Show. We're talking with SEO expert Jason Dodge, and Jason was walking us through the evolution of his team. So Jason, you're up to you, another person who duplicates you, and an intern who kind of also adds capacity.
That's right.
How far into the journey of BlackTruck are we? And then what's next for growth and especially your role? How is that evolving as we're growing?
Yeah. So as the company grows, it really does get into what you're saying. Is it's very much trying to see where our capacity and bandwidth issues are, and also skill set too. And how do we fulfill that, or how do we fulfill that role, if that makes sense? So where I might have started out as a lead on technical SEO, we needed somebody that could carry content. And as I started out as a lead on paid search ads, we needed somebody that could fulfill that role. So kind of getting back to your point, as your company grows, as BlackTruck grew, as our capacity needs asked for it, we then needed to pivot and shift. So now we're up to, we have 8 full-time employees, but we also say too that we're strategically small, and we say that for a reason. And I think one of the biggest reasons is, and it's a little bit of a competitive advantage for us too, is that we don't build websites. We make them better for search and to get users to do what we want them to do, which means we're not designers, we're not developers. We play a very strong director role when it comes to that. But we're agnostic to industry in that sense, that we stay in our lane and continue to hone our craft. And it's really been a core strategy and core focus of mine from a leadership perspective throughout, is how do we continue to do what we're known for and what we're good at as search continues to evolve, as digital marketing and digital media continues to evolve. How do we stay focused on that, no matter what those changes are, no matter what the industry is. How do we apply ourselves to that? And that's where that team evolution, I think, really starts to change. And then my dynamic as a leader needs to change too.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you right, you
Mhm.
grew the team. You're the first person, only person. So you're the generalist. You've got to know everything about everything. You
Mhm.
start adding other generalists who know everything about everything to increase capacity. And then it starts to pivot to bringing on specialists
Yeah.
who are taking on things. So how does that change your role? Do you elevate up and are more the director of things, or did you pick a specialty and you dug into that? How did you evolve your role as you brought in, especially those specialists?
Yeah, well, I think still, as a small business owner, I still do wear many hats, right? That can't go without being stated. And while I do probably have some core focuses in terms of tech SEO or particular industries that I just naturally gravitate toward and am a sponge of, it is really I've noticed it's really important to have somebody that can be focused on. Again, I'll use that content piece as an example, like content planning, preparation, mapping it out. What do we need? Looking at the strategy for a client and their priorities and the objectives, and really pulling those pieces together to make that function. Like I can't do that and run the company. Same thing with paid search. I know a lot in there. I cut my teeth in Google Ads in 2005, and I still feel very confident that I can jump in and hold my own in most digital ad platforms. But that's, again, I shouldn't be focusing my attention there to continue to run the company and grow the company. And I think that's one thing that you have to understand, is that if you are scaling responsibly, is to understand when you need to jump in and be on the dance floor and when you need to get out.
Okay. Now, you haven't mentioned any new teammates that took on kind of back office type roles.
Whew,
Anybody
no.
doing bookkeeping or accounting or client management stuff? It's all been, I'm sorry, not client management, because that's still a client facing
Mhm.
function. But how do you handle the back office of the business, not just
Yeah.
dealing with clients and performing searches in the various specialties?
Yeah, so I'm glad you did bring that up, because I don't count them as full-time employees, right? Though they are contractors, but what's interesting is they're contractors that are on a very much an ongoing retainer basis for us. Yeah, we have a contract accountant, CPA, that works closely with us. Sometimes I refer to her as our as our contract CFO, and we have a really great relationship. We've been working together for a number of years. She really understands our business. She also understands me as a leader, and understands when to push and when not to push in terms of making asks for certain things and getting approval. And she's really intricate in making sure that billables get out on time, invoices get out on time, AR happens, that we are doing collections properly, also that payroll's happening and the 401k contributions, like all of those things that make your business function that are not visible still need to happen, and need to happen by somebody. And so that's a really great relationship. And that's also a role too. I don't think, at least at this juncture, that we need to have that person as a full-time employee. So there's that. We also have outside tax advisors and things like that. I learned a long time ago that I'm not doing my taxes. Somebody else can advise us on that. So
Yeah, that's a great approach. And I knew you were covering those functions. You couldn't
yeah.
obviously have a business and not be doing those. And it makes total sense that you would, what I would consider fractional people on your team, that they're
Yes.
coming in. It's not their
Mhm.
full-time job, and you're
Yep.
not paying them a full-time wage. You're just getting like a timeshare of those experts, because that's as much as you need for your business. So, yep.
Yeah, and I do think too that if I were to think about more of the back of office type things, some of that doesn't have to be client facing, and that might be more like a project management role. That's another one that I'm kind of toying with the idea of, is that another fractional role, if that makes sense. There's definitely services out there that work really well, that can scale, that can grow, that are familiar with a lot of the normal project management tools and applications out there, like we use. So
Yep. Okay, good. So what has this all what have you learned from this? So you go from
oh
you
man.
for 5 years or so, and now you're up to 8, and that's been another, almost 10 years of that. So What mistakes have you made when you look back? What did you do well? What would you do differently? What are some of the lessons from growing a team from 1 to 8?
Yeah. I think that's a really challenging question, but I mean there's a lot of reflection that can be had, right? And you have to understand which reflection is going to be positive or is useful. And I think probably one of my biggest mistakes as a leader or in leading a team, especially with BlackTruck, was really not recognizing maybe what they were telling me, right? So if you're familiar with the concept of like walking through the halls quietly, right? Or are you on the dance floor? Or are you up in the, up in the balcony? Really making sure that you're listening and observing, and then speaking very direct with people. I think there's definitely been some challenging times, and we've had our own fair share of challenges over the years, and a lot of that comes back to, hey, I wasn't being observant on that, right? And some of that is if you're working too much in the business instead of on it, that's where you kind of start to fall short. In terms of things that maybe worked or things that are more important over the years, is it really comes down to kind of like 3 to 4 kind of pillars, and that's transparency and honesty. You can lump those two together, if you will. Empathy and advocacy. Those are the things that really stand out to me, and it's showing up every day, trying to keep everyone motivated, even when things are super challenging, is difficult. But also don't hide it either. Be transparent with teams. Talk openly about challenges, and then what can be done to help one another. Like, that's really, really important stuff, right? Both in professional and personal lives. From an empathetic perspective, I think this is something that everyone can do, and it's a continuous evolving thing, is really lead with empathy and consider the fact that your team has a life outside of work. As a business owner, entrepreneur, keep in mind, probably nobody is going to be as passionate about your business as you are. You created it. It's your baby. It's your vision, etc. But you have to be okay with that. And it took me a long time to be okay with that. But just kind of remind yourself, people are like, we're working to live. We don't live to work, right? We can be passionate about what we do and have goals, but like, people come to work for a reason. And so I think that's something to keep in mind. And then the advocacy piece, I think, is really important, especially for fast-paced businesses, different verticals, or smaller businesses where the leader's wearing many hats. I'm just upfront with everyone in the interview process, is that I'm not a mind reader. You have to be an advocate for yourself, for the business, for your client. Like, you have to be an advocate for the things that you want. If there's something that you want to see change, whether it's process or systems driven, it's wage, it's benefits, it's whatever, you have to be an advocate for that, right? We're not mind readers, and we can't go around assuming that we know what people want.
That's really good. I'm glad you got to the advocacy part, because I have not heard that term used the way you used it, and haven't heard that concept really described the way you did. And that's really interesting. I like that a lot. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So a couple other things. When you say honest search, I'm just curious. Let's jump back to that for just a second. What do you mean by honest search versus whatever the alternative is? Presumably dishonest search.
Yeah. Excuse me. There's a lot of companies out there in the search space. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of them out there that do really, really great work. And I think that's awesome. But we've, in 14 years of business, and me 18 years in the industry, you continue to see it where there are people that aren't doing what they say they're going to do. And that's really what it comes down to. Or there's some shady things that go on in the world of search. There's kind of two things that hang out in the search world or stand out. It's like, our favorite response in SEO is, it depends. So similar to if you were to sit in front of a panel of 5 different doctors, if you had a panel of 5 different SEOs in front of you, the only common answer that they're probably all going to come back to is, well, it depends. And that's really a differentiating factor. It depends because this, and that can be taken either one of two ways. There's just some shady things that are done. People buy links, spam tactics for content and content growth, things that provide short-term success and guarantees, companies that provide guarantees, you have to keep in mind, like Google is constantly evolving and the algorithm is constantly changing, right? Like over 200 times in the past year, does the algorithm get course corrected and updated? Like we don't get to know that. We have to adapt. So with that, with honest SEO, it comes through continuous education. That's education on our team and making sure that they're plugged into the right conversations. And then that transcends into education of our client. Our clients have really good relationships and we have a good rapport with them where we start to get asked questions that goes beyond what it is that we're contracted to do. We become more of a trusted advisor. We're not just advising on SEO and how do we get keywords and links, because SEO is so much more than just keywords and links. It's really about how do I expand the visibility of a brand online. That's really, really what it needs to be about, right? It's understanding that Google is not a search engine. They're an answer engine. And in individuals, human beings, if you approach it that way, we go there to seek out solutions to our problems, answers to our questions. And if you take a very honest approach with it, sometimes that means being a little bit brutally honest with a brand or with a client. It helps. I don't know if that helps answer the question.
Yeah, that's great. That's good stuff. Yeah, there's more of a curiosity question than anything. I find SEO space and Google's algorithm because they have an algorithm and it changes, but they don't tell you what it was or what it changed to. You kind of have to figure that out as you go. It's a very interesting business. So, all right, I would be remiss if I didn't hit you with this one. Tell me the story of why your business is BlackTruck Media and Marketing.
When I started the company, I drove a black truck. And needed a business name. And it just goes to show you that most people probably don't care what the name of your company is.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I know you're a reader and a learner, always looking to up your game, to pour into your teammates and your clients and yourself. What's some stuff that you're consuming these days, whether that be podcasts or books or whatever it is?
Yeah. So, fun fact. I feel like fun fact is I rarely read for fun. Ken, you know that, but listeners might not know that. So nonfiction is not my jam. That's just not, fiction is not my jam. Nonfiction is my jam. So I trend toward a lot of probably leadership books and marketing books, et cetera. But I think really with everything that's gone on over the last 2 to 3 years, I scaled that way back. I took a step back from those books as I just found them frustrating to me. So, in terms of pleasure reading, I'm reading something about kind of the rise of car design and GM during the 1950s because I'm a car guy. So I'm finding that fascinating. But recently I did pick up a book called Systemology, which is written by David Jennings, Australian author. And I found it to be pretty refreshing and maybe reaffirming some of our principles and ethos, but also like a gut check on systems and areas we might need to shore up. So similar to, Scaling Up by Vern Harnish or Gino Wickman's The EOS and Traction and stuff, but very simplified. And interestingly enough, like it's forwarded by Michael Gerber, right, of eMyth. So take all of that and really condense it down into something that truthfully is like really simple for a business that's been established a long time that maybe didn't ever abide by EOS and Traction and all that, but had some of those components there. I found it to be really helpful, and it's actually something that I'm actively reading right now.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we'll put that in the show notes and those other couple books you mentioned. So Jason, who's someone who should reach out to you and what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. I think anybody that is maybe questioning, the direction of digital marketing and certainly organic search. We work, if you want to talk about clientele types and who we really mesh well with is we work really well with both B2B and D2C type customers that are of probably mid to large size and working through kind of either complex situations or complex industries and helping them break down and understand what it is that people are searching for and most importantly, why they're searching for it and what's going to be the most important for your business. So that's what I would say is a good one. And often too, we we tend to be a really good fit for people who have attempted SEO before, whether that's through another agency or on their own. And it's not that we want to be a hero in that sense, but it's almost like, you have some skin in the game at that point in time, right? That relationship becomes even tighter, even better, because you've been there, you understand it. And now we really want to start to break down and show you some different ways to think about it.
Yeah. So what would be the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So certainly online is the best way to get a hold of me. Email jason@blacktruckmedia.com is super easy. I'm somewhat active on Twitter at DodgeJD, as well as the same handle on LinkedIn. So that's where I can be found.
All right, good deal. We'll get those in the show notes as well, and links to your website, as well as those books and things. So, hey, listen, always a pleasure to talk with you. I appreciate you sharing kind of your journey with BlackTruck. It's been interesting. I love the idea of growing the business, and the leadership role has to change and evolve, and you have to think about what you're doing next as you bring on people to your team. And so I appreciate you sharing all that, and just always good catching up. So thanks for taking some time.
Likewise, Ken, thanks for having me. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share it, and really appreciate your approach that you've provided. So it's great.
All right. Well, you're welcome. It was good having you. So, and listeners, please, if you've got SEO or search needs, absolutely get a hold of Jason, because he'll help you understand what you might need to do. And if you're a fit, you'll work together. And if you're not, Jason's going to be the first person to say, you know what, I don't think we're a fit for each other.
That's for sure.
He's not going to be pushing you into anything. He's looking for people that are looking for him. So give it a shot, because he does great work. So, all right. Well, that brings us to the end of another Clarity Advisors show. Appreciate you taking time to listen. And if this show's been of value to you, please like it, share it, and give us a review. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the Clarity Advisors show. Clarity Advisors is a speaking, training, and consulting firm specializing in helping you simplify your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Connect with Clarity Advisors today to learn more about how they can help you improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success.